Welcome back! One major point of discussion in my review of the Outin Nano Espresso machine was its pressure-assisted single basket. I briefly mentioned that this could be a concern for some people, citing its rather low dose and pressure-assisted nature. With the Nano Basket Plus kit, Outin provides the option to address these issues. It's kind of an expansion pack that can take up to 18 grams of coffee, which may even be bumped up to 21 if you're using light roasts. Most of the pack is made out of metal, and it doesn't use a pressure assistance mechanism. The pack has a tamper, a dosing funnel, the basket and its shower screen, a needle, and the portafilter that screws to the unit. If you take a closer look at the basket, you will see that the bottom part is perforated with holes, pretty much like a normal espresso basket, but under it, it looks a lot different. There's one small hole that's supposed to let the espresso converge. Don't get confused with the term double-walled baskets. Double-walled baskets are often interchangeable with pressurized baskets. This time round, this double wall does not mean that it's pressurized. It's kind of like my Flare Signature's basket, where you have a non-pressurized basket above a simple hole that does nothing but collect your espresso. This is, of course, a massive departure from the kit basket, which works with a very different mechanism. They're pretty much segmented for different people and with very different goals in mind. In this video, I will let you take the back seat and enjoy the brewing process. My usual annoying comments will just be secondary. Now we'll start with what I call the typical setting for a standard espresso. With my 17 grams of coffee here, I'm aiming for a 2.1 ratio with a flow of about 1.4 grams per second. It's not a surprise that I couldn't distinguish between this and a perfectly tuned espresso with my Flare Signature. Now, let's change the grind size a bit to see how far this unpressurized system can go. This time, I'm turning it 1/10 of a full turn, which is not much by my grinder standard, but you'll see what I'm talking about. While it's processing in the background, let me just add a bit more information about how these baskets differ from pressure-assisted baskets. Non-pressurized baskets are designed to give the barista more control over their espresso, balancing the shots by maximizing the coffee's bright notes. For comparison, a pressure-assisted basket has some kind of physical design that compensates for the lack of pressure. For instance, if we pour water on top of them, the design will stop it from flowing, unless it reaches a certain amount of pressure. On the other hand, a normal non-pressurized basket will just let anything flow. Here, the pressure is generated from the natural resistance of the compacted coffee grounds. This gives the barista the responsibility to control the flow by playing around with the grind size. If proper tuning is done, the extraction of the subtle coffee notes will be maximized, and the espresso will be more balanced. If you take a closer look, the crema here looks a bit different than we saw last time. It feels wetter, isn't as thick, and the bubbles aren't as airy. Despite me speeding up the video, we still have a major difference here. With about the same ratio, the flow is now enhanced to about 2 grams per second, and we lost a lot of the body and mouthfeel. While I make another well-optimized brew just for your spectacle, let me continue with my usual boring chatter routine here. Let's start with my takes on how you can improve your shots. I noticed that my shots were better if I flushed the unit with boiling water first. I suspect that this is due to a significant temperature loss somewhere in the unit. I probably would point out to the portafilter to be the main culprit. It's one heavy metal, so it effectively acts like a heatsink. You probably will do better if you do at least one cycle of preheating. My preheating cycle involves flushing boiling water from the tank and dumping it on top of the metal portafilter. Doing this right before brewing should stop most of the heat sinks from stealing a large amount of heat. I also noticed that whether you have the basket plus or not, it's actually faster to weight your espresso instead of weighing your water. Not only that this is faster, it also removes the calculation guesswork we had to do last time. Just be sure to compensate a few grams by stopping a few seconds earlier. You might also want to flush the rest of the water out before cleaning, as water might still end up stuck inside the puck if you stop halfway through like this. But I also found that the basket plus knocks the puck out much easier compared to the kit basket. It probably has something to do with the tapered shape of the basket and the stainless steel material. If you do a preheat cycle before the brew, the metal will get hot to the touch, so you will need to use a piece of cloth. It's quite some extra work, and probably going to not be absolutely necessary if you're doing darker roasts. But I'd say it's a must for light roasted coffee that needs high temperature brewing to achieve good extraction. A couple of nitpicks with this basket kit is that I'm not a huge fan of the tapered shape. It's harder to tame than straight baskets, and while the angle is not so bad, it's a bit strange to me that they specifically chose the tapered shape. Tapered baskets sure have their pros, but it'd be much nicer if I can somehow get the straight-walled basket at some point. I also want to make a small comment on how the perforations are machined in the basket. As we saw many times before, how accurate the individual holes are machined can greatly influence the espresso coming out of your baskets. While I can't confirm them myself without a microscope, I can only hope for now that these are properly machined. And with that being said, let's enjoy the final brew for now.